And we are a go. Hello, everybody. Spider here, Thefightcardpodcast, coming to you from San Antonio, Texas. I'm being joined by my buddy, man. I haven't seen you in years, bro. And I gotta say, man, I mean, being here in San Antonio, man, it's hard for me to get from point A to point B. I mean, San Antonio has grown so much, bro. I tell people, man, it used to take me an hour to get to Austin. Now it takes me an hour to get from one side of San Antonio to the other, bro.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, same thing. When I first moved here, man, it would take me, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes to get to where I need to get. If it's anywhere even close to rush hour, man, you're looking at 30, 35, 40, anywhere, HEB, anywhere.
And now, my man, Ben, as far as you are from San Antonio, right?
No, I'm not. I'm from Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. You see, and I had seen that on your profile, of course, even years back. But that's why I always assumed you came from wrestling, man. I thought you were a wrestler growing up.
No, everyone assumes that, man. It's an interesting story. I grew up playing basketball my whole life. Basketball didn't really work out. I wasn't as good as I thought I was. And, it was one of those things where I needed to do something in college, and I was restless. And, I tried playing for a lower Division I university, and it didn't work. And I was like, man, I need to do something. And fighting, it just so happened I was like really aggressive on the court. I was always like the guy that was like pretty confrontational, you know what I mean? And like just very physical and, lacked some skill, but was physical. And so it was right up my alley. But no, I came from basketball. I didn't start wrestling. So it's weird because I started learning jiu-jitsu with a few other wrestlers that wrestled for the University of Minnesota.
Okay.
And they were new to it. I was new to it. And so we started learning jiu-jitsu together, and also they would teach me wrestling. So even before I learned jiu-jitsu, I was actually learning wrestling from these guys that wrestled Division I from the University of Minnesota. So it was kind of a unique experience starting out. So yeah, no, basketball, man. I was the dude on the basketball court.
And is it safe to say that you didn't play much, man? Did you get fouled a lot? A lot?
Yeah. So when I was in high school, I got cut from my team when I was like a junior. And then when I was a senior, I didn't play much. You know what I mean? And I was just like bummed about that. And maybe I had, probably thought I was better than I probably was. And I just wasn't. I just needed something. And once I started jiu-jitsu, I actually started kickboxing in this guy's garage, this black belt out of Columbia Heights. And this guy was like really short guy, but he just, wasn't very athletic, but showed me how to kickbox. And man, I fell in love with it. And I was like, why hadn't I done this all along? And then shortly after that, I started doing jiu-jitsu. So, my first martial art I learned was actually American kickboxing. And then it was jiu-jitsu shortly after that.
No, and of course, man. I mean, when I met you, you were already here in San Antonio. You were already training with Brazilian top team here in San Antonio. And I mean, throughout these years, man. I mean, how obviously you still like it because you're still doing it. But
Yeah.
how the ride been in all these years?
Yeah, I haven't ever had a reason to leave. I was always the type of guy where, if I had a good relationship with the coach, which I did at the time, which was Marcelo, we've always had a very good, open, honest relationship, and it's been a very sincere relationship. I have never found a reason to leave. And then you develop relationships, and there were so many guys that appealed to me when I got to that gym. There was a guy that fought at the time, Travis. Remember Travis Lamb back in the day? He was one of our first guys out of there. He fought. He was one of the guys that made it fun for me. Of course, Smitty was Richard Smith was the striking coach at the time. And man, the gyms went through a lot of changes over the years, but I've always remained consistent there. I've always wanted to be there for my teammates. First and foremost, more so than carry a name, more so than be a part of actual Brazilian top team. It was more to me about less about the actual name and more about my teammates, because, you develop these strong bonds with these guys. And once you do that, it's just strange to me how people can develop those strong bonds and then just ghost everybody. That's just never been me. I value camaraderie and in relationships more than, my own personal personal kind of goals, I guess. I don't know. Maybe that's right. Maybe that's wrong, but that's just me.
No, no, definitely, man. But I mean, like you said, because everybody that you've been training with all these years, bro, you guys spend a lot more time in the gym probably than you do at home. So of course that bond is pretty strong.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep.
And,
Absolutely. 100%. We're there more than I probably see my family, you know? So there's a lot that goes into it.
no, and I was gonna ask you, bro. Right now you are a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and you do represent Brazilian top team. And I gotta say, man, you've been doing a great job, you know, in competition. Is it a goal for you to compete as much as you do, or is it just something that pops up and you're like, man, I guess I'll take it?
You know, it started, my initial goal was to, man, my initial goal was make it to the UFC, but then, you know, I stopped doing MMA. And after a few fights, I was like, I started getting injured, and, you know, one thing, you know, kind of led to another. And then I just kind of found myself on the jiu-jitsu circuit. And I guess it was never my goal to be a black belt world champion. You know, it just happened that I was, you know, from just hard training. And I just kind of stumbled across it. And one year, you know, I ended up training really, really hard for it. And I lost in the division. Then I won open class against guys who have had their black belts longer than I've been training, and multi-time world champions and previous world champions at adult the year before. And I ended up being fortunate to beat those guys. And it was never my goal to be a world champion, you know, or win twice or win 3 times like I have. That was never my goal. My goal was just to get the most potential I could out of myself through hard training, through discipline, through being completely dedicated, through sacrificing things, through constantly learning and trying to seek out new information. My goal was to just reach my full potential as much as I can, and I still feel like I haven't. Um, that was my goal. You know, it was just to be, I guess, just the best martial artist that I could be every day, and seek some form of improvement every day. It was never about, man, I want this medal, I want this accolade, I want, you know, I want this type of recognition, and it wasn't about that. Um, so right now, I'm looking to compete as much as I can. Um, you know, it's tough because, you know, of course, I have a full-time job, and I compete against guys who do this for a living, you know, who are 21 years old, 22 years old, that do this. That's all they do. They got sponsors that give them a $5,000 living allowance every month. You know, I'm competing against those guys, and so far I've been pretty successful. You know, you win some, lose some, but I'm still in the mix with, I believe, some of the best guys in the world.
No, and then, you mentioned sponsors, man. One of the things you had posted the other day was, you know, for your Instagram, trying to get your Instagram up. One of the things, and I'm pretty sure like for instance, Jamal Emmers. I mean,
Yep.
when people know the guy, he's real humble, he's quiet, sticks to himself. And I noticed that was a lot of top fighters, man. Like yourself, man. You're real humble. You're not out there to, you know, go and be like, hey, you know, look at me. But sponsors do need that, and now you kind of realize that, you know, I mean, are you looking to get more sponsors? And like you said, I mean, just I mean, your numbers up, and of course, get more sponsors along the way.
Yeah, so I get asked this question kind of quite a bit by guys that are heavily sponsored. There's guys that are kind of in the beginning stages of their competition career, but they got like 10 sponsors, you know, or you know, 5 to 10 sponsors. And here's the weird thing: up until about 2 weeks ago, I've never asked a company in my entire jiu-jitsu career to sponsor me. I have fully funded my entire career through just like obviously my job, and, you know, privates on the weekends and seminars and those kind of things, traveling all across the country doing seminars. I have funded my own career. Now, that being said, I am now very interested in the prospect of sponsors and people who are willing to help support me in my career, because, you know, I have a family now, and, you know, and I have a daughter that's almost 3, and so, you know, anything helps. And so, yeah, absolutely, I'm looking for sponsors right now. But no, I've only asked, I asked a CBD company, Santa Cruz Medicinals, not too long ago, and he was nice enough to help me out with some amazing products to help me with my sleep and recovery. But like, other than that, I've never asked a company to sponsor me. I've never asked for fight gear. I've never asked for dues paid. But no one's really offered either, right? There's been like a few people to offer little stuff here and there, but you know, and it's pretty unheard of for a guy to have, you know, I don't like to talk about myself, but has won some of the things that I've won, to not have sponsors, I got to be the only guy out there. Like, I have to be probably the only guy out there that has no sponsors, that has actually done a decent amount in the sport. So yes, I'm definitely looking for sponsors, man. And I feel I can reach a pretty wide audience group as much as I compete. The contacts that I have, my Instagram, my Facebook, the relationships I have in San Antonio. I'm probably a good person to represent a brand, but it's just, I haven't really asked. So.
No, and for sure, man. Because like you said, I mean, obviously you've been committing to the sport for years. I mean, as far as investment, you invested in yourself. I mean, which is always the best thing to do, right? But
Yeah.
big help for sure, man. As far as sponsors, what are you thinking, man? Are you thinking like fight gear? I mean, what products out there would you be able to be willing to represent? Should I say?
Yeah, I'm really open to anything, you know. I'm a little bit of an older competitor now, man. I'm 36. I'm going to be 37 this summer. And I'm a teacher, and I'm a full-time teacher. And so, and I'm also a dad as well. And so, like, I have, you know, a decent amount of world experience, man. So, like, um, I before I taught, I worked in retail and that kind of stuff, and worked sales. But man, I'm kind of open to anything. Of course, along the lines of fight gear, you know, finger tape, those kinds of things. CBD, I'm always open to, you know, those kinds of products, because I think those products are I don't like to endorse anything that's like kind of negative. Like, I would never endorse like alcohol. That's just not really my thing. You know, marijuana, it's just not really my thing to endorse. But like anything positive, man, it could be an insurance company, it could be a CBD company, it could be a clothing company, it could be any of those things that I'm definitely interested in helping their brand grow, as much as they're willing to help support me.
No, definitely, man. One of the things I always tell fight gear companies out there, man, is when it comes to a fighter, um, fighting itself, I mean, you don't make a lot of money, even in the regional circuit. You get paid, but I mean, dues and everything else, of course, by the time you pay everything off, you know, it's not a lot. So I always told these companies, like, man, you give this guy a full wardrobe, man, and they'll wear it, because they don't have money to go out there and buy new stuff. So of course, I mean, rash guards, fight shorts, like you said, tape, you know, as far as finger tape, I mean, anything like that, man. And I'm gonna be reaching out for you, man. There's a couple of companies out there I'm definitely gonna send your way. But yeah, man. But you just said, as far as seminars, do you have anything lined up this year for seminars?
Yeah. Nothing. Well, so I just got back from Augusta, Georgia, doing a seminar at a new gym out there, Liberty Jiu-Jitsu. That was awesome. Um, I frequently do seminars in Minnesota, where I'm from. So I've done a few seminars out there. Early in the year, I did a seminar out there, and so I'm looking to do another seminar. I've been talking to the head instructor at a BTT school in Dallas. I'm hoping to go out there. Or we're just trying to work out some of the dates. I might be heading back to Minneapolis and doing another seminar. I'm talking to another guy as well. Um, Maybe in New Orleans as well. I've been talking to a guy. So man, seminars are a big part of like funding my career. You know what I mean? Like, people don't understand. It's like, I'm willing to give you knowledge that, you know, it took me 13, 14 years to acquire, and that I've done at the highest level of jiu-jitsu. And in exchange, you know, you give me a $40 seminar fee, $50 seminar fee. That's a good deal, man. You know, people pay $50 for lunch. Like, dude, I'm showing you how to create a name for yourself, and it costs a very small portion out of your day. And so, yeah, I have some stuff lined up, but most of that will be posted on my Instagram page soon, as soon as I get the details figured out.
And what is the Instagram plug? Where can people reach you at?
Ben Leny Jiu-Jitsu. So benlenyjj.com.
Now, let me ask you, bro. When it comes to a competition, of course, you have traveled. I mean, normally when you travel out there, do you drive? Do you fly? You know, how do you get around?
So I'm typically flying. So my flights, man, it just depends. You know, COVID slowed me down a little bit. Obviously slowed everybody down. But now that we're traveling again, my flights are anywhere from, you know, honestly, relatively cheap. They're usually not over like $300, man. And so, like, you know, flights are relatively inexpensive. But yeah, I'm traveling to California. I might be going to Vegas here in 3 weeks for the trials. Just stuff like that, man. Just Vegas, Cali a lot, you know, other states that invite me there for super fights sometimes. I've also win as well.
And when it comes to privates, I mean, in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, of course, no basketball privates, right? Just Jiu-Jitsu, bro. Just to get it out there, man.
If you got a basketball private for me, man, that you're really that's bottom of the barrel right there, man. It's just you're not going to benefit a lot from that. Yeah, so privates, I always tell people to DM me. I can always work with folks, man. Whatever folks want to do. I typically do all my privates out in my garage a lot. I got a gym out there where I get a bunch of guys out there, so I usually have 2 or 3 a week, and they just kind of revolve and those kinds of things. So yeah, if people are interested in privates, I always bring a unique perspective, and the unique perspective that I bring is there's a lot of guys who wrestle in jiu-jitsu. I'm aware of that, right? I know that there's a lot of guys that wrestle in jiu-jitsu, and then there's a lot of guys that do jiu-jitsu. But I have one of the unique blends of how to use both wrestling and jiu-jitsu at a high level, and there's not a lot of guys that can say that. Specifically, so I used to coach high school. I used to coach high school wrestling. I was a head coach at Wagner High School. And my second year there, I was fortunate enough to be, I think it was the Region 6 Coach of the Year, as well as also a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Master 1 Nogi World Champion 3 times. So it's like I have the unique experience of coaching wrestling at the high school level and winning Jiu-Jitsu at one of the highest levels. So I have a very unique perspective. And so some of the folks that go to my school, they know that my perspective is that of a blend of wrestling and jiu-jitsu. And I do it a little differently. It's not one of those things, I'm a very big believer in, playing a good bottom game and having a solid guard. And I'm also a big believer in wrestling up and learning how to stay out of trouble in wrestling transitions, which is often where wrestlers get in trouble. And so I have a unique perspective there. So if that's kind of your thing, if it's your thing to stay on top and to take people down and pass guards and submit people, then I think that I can contribute a lot to that.
Let me ask you this, because you have competed in mixed martial arts. Would you be willing to do private for an MMA guy looking to kind of hone his skills and
Yeah.
take down?
Most of the privates I do are for MMA guys. Most of the privates I do are for MMA guys. Myself and Anthony Ivy are our main training partners, and we've learned a lot from each other. And so I can provide a lot of guys with that. There's most of the guys that I do, sometimes I'll get older folks that want to do privates with me, but normally it's like your younger competitor or MMA fighter that wants better grappling for MMA. And that's definitely something that I feel like I can pride myself on as well.
No, definitely, my man. Man, I want you to get this video in. I'm gonna be bringing you back soon. I mean, this is more to kind of plug you in and give you a little bit more of a platform. But I'm gonna bring you back, and hopefully, I mean, next time we meet up, maybe we'll be in person, man. I mean, by all means, we're in San Antonio. But as far as competitions coming up, man, do you have anything lined up right now?
So I do. I just got to get my ass in gear and get this flight going. But I have the trials coming up, which is one of the biggest tournaments of the year. I just competed in Dallas Open and won the super heavyweight adult division, which was pretty cool. Super tough guys were in that division as well. My next one, again, I said is going to be an ADCC, the West Coast Trials. Looking to do that. And then after that, maybe Houston, Austin kind of deal. There's some Austin, Houston Opens. And then, of course, towards the end of the year, Nogi Worlds is something that I always try to hit up. Not quite sure yet when that's going to be. They haven't posted that yet, but I'm going to find out when that is shortly, and then we'll go ahead and go from there. But pretty regular competition schedule, especially with my, all my duties I have as a full-time teacher and my daughter running around 100 miles an hour all the time. So that definitely keeps me busy. I have a full schedule ahead, so.
No, by all means. And let me ask you, this is going to be the big question, man. Do you prefer gi or no gi, man, when it comes to competition?
Always no gi. Always
Okay.
no. I train in the gi about once. If it's a really good week for me, I'll train about twice a week in the gi.
Oh, okay.
Typically, yeah. It used to be different. I used to hear from folks back in the day, well, the only way to get better no-gi is to train more gi, and that's this is not true. So I do about 1 day of gi training a week. I used to compete in the gi all the time, but I moved to no-gi. I've always liked no-gi more. I have a really strong passing system that I use Nogi that doesn't work so well in the Ghee because of the grips. But yeah, definitely Nogi. It's faster. It's
More
more
action.
explosive. It's so much more entertaining to the viewer as well.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
by
I
far,
agree.
Nogi more. Yeah, absolutely.
My man, I do appreciate you, Ben Leny, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, my man. I want to bring you back. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap this up?
No, man, I just want to thank my training partners, and you know, uh, this way of living is not always easy. It's the way of living that I chose, but there's a lot of things that people don't see. There's a lot of mental battles people don't see, and battles with sleep, and battles with just other things, and injuries, and those kinds of things, and a lot of us uh, have worked really hard to get to the place that we are right now. Um, and when I say us, I say myself and a lot of my team members, and people from other teams as well. And it is literally like we are sacrificing our life and our bodies. And so if you are interested in getting your brand out there and those things are greatly appreciated because of the amount of effort and the amount of time and dedication that we put into the sport. Um, Man, and if you don't believe me, there's going to be a documentary on me that's going to be coming out here real soon that just kind of gives a small snippet of kind of how intense this training and this commitment can be. So check that out too. It's going to be on my Instagram. It's going to be in my bio soon. And so, yeah, that'll be a good kind of window into my life also.
Nice, man. I didn't know that. I'll definitely be looking out for that. My man. Well, thank you, brother. I will be bringing you back. Everybody else, this is Spider here, the Fight Card Podcast. Till next time, follow up.
Thank you so much.